Joining us now to discuss Democratic Congressman Suha Subramanian of Virginia, who is in today's deposition, and Democratic Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico, who will be in tomorrow's deposition with former President Clinton.
Greetings to you both. Secretary Clinton had a statement that she put out tonight. I think we have sound from her. Let's play it, and I have something to say on the other side.
I want to commend Chairman Comer for raising a series of significant questions that I responded to about the nature of the investigation and the areas that I thought should be explored. So I appreciated that. I want to see the truth come out. So that was a reassuring way to end a very long, repetitive deposition.
Now, let me just say, that seemed like a very gracious statement. Congresswoman Stansbury, a woman is being forced to testify about the crimes of men who are not being forced to testify. Help me understand what is going on here.
Well, I think that is at the heart of so much of this trial, going back to the early 2000s, when not only did Jeffrey Epstein not get prosecuted by the federal government, but they were actually investigating young women and girls who he raped and trying to put them on the stand to discredit them. But fast forward, the only woman who has been prosecuted in this crime is his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell. And one of the things that's very peculiar in this case, I went back to look at the unredacted files this week, is that the vast majority of co-conspirators that were investigated were the women who groomed and assisted in Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. But none of the male perpetrators who committed crimes of rape and sexual abuse, including potentially the president, who is accused in the files, have been called to testify and to account for what happened. And obviously, this is a systemic representation of what happens in society. Blame the victims.
You know, I want to stay on that point, Congressman, because Subramanian, because Hillary Clinton, in her written opening statement, made that point to some degree, and I want to read it, and then I have, like my friend Simone, a thought that I want to share. Quote: "You have made little effort to call the people who show up most prominently in the Epstein files. You have compelled me to testify, fully aware that I had no knowledge that would assist your investigation, in order to distract from President Trump's actions and to cover them up despite legitimate calls for answer." Congressman, both you and Congresswoman Stansbury have been accused of Trump derangement syndrome over the last number of years. But that pales, my friend, that pales in comparison to Republicans' Clinton derangement syndrome, which is over 35 years old. This story, going after Hillary Clinton, there's a room in a basement somewhere in which it's like elixirs. They just mix whatever we can to come after her when they know that she had nothing, no connection, all the evidence points in that direction. So the fact that she states this up front, the fact that, as was just noted, you have women are the ones who are being called to testify. Women are the ones who are trying to get answers. The men are sitting back going, hubba, I don't know, right? What does that tell you about where this ultimately goes? Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, tomorrow they'll get Bill Clinton. What the Republicans are doing is they're laying down traps that they don't even realize they're laying down, because at some point the table turns here. And when you're sitting there with subpoena power, this is a very different conversation than the one we're having now. So if I'm Republicans, I'm like, you know what? Let's get this ish out of the way and clean up on aisle 9 through 27 and get ready for the 28 elections, because 26 is done.
Yeah, no, I sat through those almost 7 hours today where they basically asked her the same questions over and over again. And look at what Secretary Clinton just said. She said by the end of the entire day, they were asking her for advice on how to move the investigation forward. Why are we having her in the first place when there's so many names in the files? And she said over and over again, I've never even met the guy. We have all these people who are doing business with him, who are associated with him, who have pictures with other victims next to them. Why was Hillary Clinton the focus of our investigation at all to begin with? And so it's just, I think it really backfired on them. It was really an embarrassment. I'm looking forward to seeing the transcript come out. She also said that they were asking her questions about UFOs and Pizzagate and things that had nothing to do with this. And so they just really fell flat today, and it was a total embarrassment.
Congresswoman Stansbury, tomorrow the attention turns to former President Bill Clinton. What is it you want to know from him? And do you think that tomorrow's deposition will in any way mirror today's?
You know, it's hard to say. I think it was very obvious walking into the deposition today that Hillary Clinton was not a person of interest in the Epstein case and that this was politically motivated. On the other hand, we know that Bill Clinton was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's, though he claims that he was not. There's many statements that show that survivors claim that they witnessed him at Epstein's house and various private properties. He traveled to Africa with Jeffrey Epstein in the presence of survivors. And so we have some very serious questions of the former president about what he knew, why he continued to associate with Epstein, and what he may have observed. But I want to make a distinction that there is no evidence of a crime being committed by him, whereas, by contrast, the president of the United States right now is accused by a credible witness for whom the FBI took sworn statements of rape of her as she was a minor, and the DOJ has actively removed those files from their website and refused to release them. So this is a very different situation, but they are both very serious inquisitions that we're doing right now to investigate what happened.
Our colleague Ali Vitale asked Chairman Comer this morning about the potential for Secretary Lutnick to testify. Congressman, take a listen to this.
In the spirit of bipartisanship, would you then ask the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to come testify? It seems like he has some information.
That's very possible.
Howard Lutnick, can we hear from him?
Trump's plan backfired, and he is lashing out. Do you remember years ago now? God, felt like decades ago, doesn't it? But years ago now, when he lost the election and he threw ketchup on the wall. Do you remember that? All you have to say is Donald Trump is having a ketchup tantrum, and everyone knows what you're talking about. Well, the ketchup was flying today because this was his Hail Mary, his last-ditch effort to get everyone talking about how other people are guilty in the files, but it's actually him. That's what he wanted. But it didn't work because the problem with it is, one, the Hillary connection to Jeff is tangential. Bill, it's a bit different. I think there's more there. We have to see. But Hillary, I think it's just clearly vindictiveness. And the thing is, any of the connections she has are dulled by comparison to Trump and then contextualized by comparison to Trump. Oh, they all traveled in the same circles in New York. Okay, who was in those same circles? Donald Trump and Melania Trump. And Trump's kids, like Ivanka, was often in those circles too. So, anytime you bring them up, it just raises the attention on Trump. We've talked about this. Go back to like November, December, and all these rumors started coming out about Bill's role in the files. But what happened? That's when it really triggered the avalanche against Trump. Because any focus on Bill is going to bring a focus on Donald. They will not be separated on this. And the fact is that Donald's connection to Epstein was much deeper, broader, and potentially more troubling than any former president except himself.